Hi there. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about one of the key ways to tell your builder isn't following your architectural drawings. And we see this all the time. There's countless building sites that I go onto and I can spot it straight away. This builder isn't following our drawings. Now what do we do? What preventative measures we can put in place? And it's a really simple thing. We can see it, like I said, we see it all the time. And the one key thing that we do see so frequently, and this is a telltale sign, is that the insulation between the cavity wall isn't as specified. And they will either change the insulation to a completely different type of insulation. I'll explain a little bit more about that. Or they won't use the right thickness of insulation, or they won't have laid it properly. So typically, because of the way that we now need to make our buildings a lot more warmer and more thermally efficient, and thermal efficiency works in both directions, keeping it cool in the summer and warm in the winter, insulation needs to be a lot thicker. And this means normally your cavity is a little bit wider. Now, there are probably 2 or 3 different types of insulation, and the 2 that I'll focus on today is what we call the hard PIR insulation, which is kind of like a foam board, quite rigid, quite firm. And you may have seen it around on construction sites. The other type of insulation is a man-made mineral fiber insulation, and that's the soft kind of insulation that when you squish it, it's like a ball and it compresses. And you'll have seen that quite often people pack out their lofts with that type of insulation. Now, the softer stuff, it is not as thermally effective in the same level of thickness as the harder stuff. And I'm using very simplistic terms for ease here. And so the harder stuff you can normally, get away with now to meet current U values, probably about 90 millimeters of insulation. And normally the harder stuff needs a slightly bigger cavity, a clear air gap, in order for it not to get sort of impacted by weather and such like. So what happens when we go onto site when somebody's not followed our drawings? They normally take the man-made mineral fiber insulation, the softer stuff, and pack that into the cavity that is specified on the drawings. The downside is that doesn't meet current building regulations and current thermal performance. And so you end up in a battle sort of saying, well, you've used the wrong type of insulation here. Normally, why are they using the wrong type of insulation? Fundamentally to save money. And quite often because that's what they've always done. But the regulations are consistently changing, and they need to be wary of that and keeping up to date with it. We have had instances, a couple of instances in the last 6 months where I have gone to site and have seen, as I said repeatedly, that the builder has either used the wrong insulation, so they've used a man-made, the softer insulation in the cavity. We've had to ask them to take down one side of the wall and put the right insulation in. It's so easy for them to get it right. They just had to follow the instructions in the drawings, but in their wisdom they didn't, so they end up having to pay for it to do it correctly to meet the regulations. And ultimately you want them to do it correctly because that is what they have paid, you're paying them for. And also the long-term thermal efficiency will impact your heating bills on the house, so you want to make sure that that is correct to start with. The other instance we recently saw is, although they'd followed the right insulation, they put it in the wrong way round. So some of this hard, rigid insulation, it comes with a sort of fleece barrier, and that effectively prevents any moisture buildup getting into your house, because a cavity, ultimately, if it is very small, can be sort of ingress of water or condensation within that space, and ultimately that can lead to damp patches on the wall. So if this isn't done properly, the consequences of it may not show straight away, but will become apparent years down the line. And ultimately you want your building to last you a very long time, or somebody else a long time, and so you want to make sure it's done correctly. So in this particular instance, the builder hadn't followed the drawings and the instructions, where it's very clear that what side the sort of fleeced layer goes. They'd put it in the wrong way. We'd walked onto site, seen it, and ultimately they needed to bring the wall down and put it the right way round so that we don't inherit any issues. So that's the quickest way to see if a builder is following drawings. When we do establish that the builder isn't following drawings, we can be a bit more wary about that. You may, if you are hiring your architect to manage the project and you're not versed in spotting that, you may ask your architect to come out and check those things, and then you may think, well, actually I might need that expert eye to oversee this project, because quite frankly there's so much to understand, and if your builder isn't following the drawings, then that leaves you in a very vulnerable position in the execution, because you have a limited a knowledge base as to know whether or not what they're doing is accurate, and ultimately you're paying for them to make sure that they deliver what is on those drawings typically. If they change their mind, if they change the performance and they talk it through with you, that's slightly different, and that's a whole nother kind of scenario to understand. But ultimately, as I said, the quickest way to tell if your builder is actually following your architect's drawings is to check the insulation in the walls.